everybody, and welcome to Food for Thought. I appreciate you being here and taking the time to watch and learn and see what God might have to say to you today. So we're going to talk today about when worlds collide, when your world, your reality collides with God's. All right. So when Ashley, our oldest child, was born, we added a new reality to our lives. It's what happens when a child is born, right? You add a new reality to your lives, especially the first one. It's a brand new reality added to your life. And when I say we added a new reality, what I mean is that we didn't do away with our reality. We placed her reality in with ours. We added a new reality. And so an infant, if you take just an infant, they can't even begin to understand your world as a parent, right? They can't begin. They have no idea. They have no idea how tired you are from taking care of them. They have no idea that you're concerned about the bills not getting paid and not being able to make ends meet, or the temptations you're fighting, or the pressure you're getting from work. They have no idea. They have no idea how inconvenient they're making your life, right? They don't know. And the realities of an infant are all consuming for a parent. They're all consuming, but it doesn't go both ways, does it? An infant's reality, let's be honest, an infant's reality consists of 5 things on a loop, okay? 5 things on a loop. They eat, they poop, they sleep, they poop while they're sleeping, and then they wake you up at the most inconvenient times. That's the realities. Those are the realities of an infant. Infants don't care about them, or they care only about themselves. They don't care about you. They don't care how you feel. But you, as a good parent, you have to care about how they feel. So you have to take care of your reality and theirs at the same time. And many times, sacrificing your own needs and your own desires to meet their every demand. That's the realities of being a parent, especially to an infant. But then, our children grow older. We begin to teach them. We begin to train them. We begin to teach them according to our ways and our thoughts. And there are times where we have to kind of require our children, the older they get, to enter into situations that test them, that push them into places where they learn new ideas and new things, that force their training along. For example, forcing them to clean their room teaches responsibility. Forcing them to eat the food on their plate teaches them not to waste. These kinds of things. And oftentimes, they fight it because they hate it, because they don't understand yet what becomes of it, where it goes. What are we doing when we require our children to learn responsibility and integrity and honesty and any other virtue for that matter? What are we doing? We're teaching them our ways and our thoughts that are above theirs. We're teaching them how to become better people. And it comes often through testing. Now, Isaiah chapter 5 or 55 says this. This is verses 6 through 9, but Isaiah 55, 6 through 9 says this. Seek the Lord while you can find him. Call on him while he is near. Let the wicked change their ways and banish the very thought of doing wrong. Let them turn to the Lord that he may have mercy on them. Yes, turn to our God, for he will forgive generously. What an awesome God we serve. Isaiah is inviting us to make the shift in the way that we think, because the way that we think is nothing like the way that he thinks. God is calling us through Isaiah to seek him, to call on him, to turn to him, to turn from our selfishness and embrace his mercy and his forgiveness, thereby embracing his reality. But why is he calling us to seek, to call, and turn to him? Well, because simply in verse 8, it says in verses 8 and 9 of Isaiah 55, my thoughts are nothing like your thoughts. My ways are far beyond anything you could imagine. For just as the heavens are higher than the earth, so my ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts are higher than your thoughts. In other words, we are infant-like in our understanding of God's understanding and God's reality. And if we're to have any understanding of God's reality and God's ways and God's thoughts, it's going to be because God puts us in positions where he can reveal to us what he's thinking and his way. Mark chapter 4 gives a great story and illustrates this. And the Bible is full of these kinds of stories. So I'm going to just talk about a couple of those here today. Mark chapter 4, verses 35 to 41. Jesus is telling his disciples that they're going to get in a boat and they're going to go to the other side of the lake. And here's what it says. That day when evening came, Jesus says to his disciples, let's go over to the other side. All right, this is both of their realities. Jesus is there, the disciples are there. Let's both get into the boat. Leaving the crowd behind, they took him along, just as he was in the boat. There were also other boats with him. A furious squall came up, and the waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. This was the disciples' only reality. This is all they know. This is all they see is a storm, the swamping of the boat, the drowning, the possible drowning. All of this, the negative, is all they can see. Jesus was still on the boat. He was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. You see, Jesus had added his reality as God to their reality as only human. And he was living in both realities. The disciples woke him up and said to him, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" See, this is the only reality they had, was certain death. This is all they could see. It's all they knew at the time. Jesus gets up out of the boat, or in the boat, he gets up, he rebukes the wind, he says to the waves, "Quiet, be still. You guys knock it off. Lay down, waves, wind, you back off and leave us alone." Jesus has been forcing them into situations that reveal his reality, and that his reality supersedes their reality, but it can only be accessed by faith. They can only get to where he is by faith in believing in who he is. This terrified them. They were terrified, it says, and they asked each other, "Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey this guy?" You see, they're struggling trying to embrace and see God's reality in their lives. God has crashed into their world. God has just, he didn't get invited. He invited himself. He invited them to come along, and he's going to introduce his reality to them as well as to the rest of the world, including you and I. You see, Jesus knew before they even pushed off from the shore that they were going to come into this squall. He knew that. Jesus knew their faith would be tested. Jesus was about to demonstrate another aspect of his reality that they had never seen, but they needed to be in the squall, in the storm, in what looks like they're going to drown before he could reveal to him who he is, that he is also the God over nature. See, he could have said all along, "Hey guys, you know something? If there's a really bad storm on the lake and you're in the middle of it, or I'm in the middle of it, I can make the waves lay down. I can make the wind stop blowing. I can calm the storm." That would have been a really great story. But he had to show them. He had to teach them. He had to put them in that situation in order to reveal his power in their lives. There is another story in John chapter 11. I'm not going to read all the verses on this one, but John chapter 11, verses 17 to 41 is the story of Lazarus. Lazarus was a good friend of Jesus, and Lazarus had gotten sick. So they sinned for Jesus. Lazarus' crew, his family, they sinned for Jesus to come. Jesus was several miles away and to come and to heal Lazarus before he dies. But he waits on purpose. It seems to do nothing. He doesn't help. He doesn't come when he's called. Lazarus dies. But he does this so that he can introduce to them a new reality, a reality they had never known yet. Jesus does eventually go to Bethany where Lazarus is, but not before Lazarus has been dead now for 4 days and has been buried in a tomb and is rank. That guy stinks. Mary and Martha's reality is that Lazarus is dead. End of story. That's all they can see. That's all they know. And they're critical of Jesus for not coming earlier so that he could heal Lazarus before he dies. In fact, in John 11:37, it says this, "Some of them said, 'Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind have also kept this man from dying?'" Yes, he could have. But in order for him to show a new reality, he's got to let it get as bad as it can get. Jesus forces them into a situation that will show them another aspect of his reality, and that is a resurrection. A resurrection. He's about to blow their minds. And in fact, they'll get to participate in the miracle Because in John 11:44, it says this, the dead man came out, because Jesus has said, Lazarus, come forth. So Lazarus comes out of the tomb. The dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen and a cloth around his face. He still looks dead, but he's acting alive. Jesus said to them, take off the grave clothes and let him go. In other words, somebody help this man. Help this man, Lazarus, who was dead and is now alive. You guys get to touch and see what God has just done. You get to take part in the miracle that you've just seen performed. This is a brand new reality. It was about 2 years ago that God asked me and my wife to get into the boat and cross to the other side. God was asking something of me that I had no desire to do. In fact, for the next 6 months after he initially revealed to me what he wanted me to do, I fought it, and I fought it hard because I didn't want to do it. But I could feel the pressure of this calling on my mind and on my body, physical body, every day for 6 months. It ramped up. Every day for 6 months, I could feel the pressure of this calling. And I was convinced that if I didn't do this, I was going to have a heart attack. I was going to meet my maker. I got into the boat 6 months later, and my wife got in with me. I had what I thought at the time a good idea of what God was leading me to do. And I had even been given what I thought were confirmations, and I'm still today not sure that they weren't. But I knew that I had to do this before God would do that. We climbed into the boat 18 months ago, and what we thought God was leading us to do didn't happen. Where we thought God was leading wasn't. And for the next 18 months, we would wrestle with embracing God's reality, but not being able to see how that played out in our lives yet or what that meant. So how do we embrace God's reality when it looks like God is nowhere in sight, and yet you're following and obeying and doing everything you know, but the storm is not letting up yet? Interestingly, this past Wednesday, we had that, the big snowstorm come in, and it was a rough one for a lot of people. I went to pick up my daughter from where I live for a early dinner. And as I was driving down 71 South, I was praying, and I was asking God to please reveal himself to me. Show me the next step. What is it? We've been on this journey for 18 months. We've taken this step. What is it you want us to do? God, help us to see you, to know you. What is it you want us to become? Or was I missing anything? Is there unconfessed sin in my life? I was just praying, God, help me, show me, teach me. Just show me anything. Traffic had come to a stop, a dead stop, multiple times on 71 on that little trip. And I remember we got to a place in the traffic where I was just about at the Smith Edwards Road exit, and traffic had come to a stop, and I looked ahead of me, one car up and one car to my right, and there was on the bumper of this car was a very large bumper sticker in all capital letters, "Trust God." That's it. Just trust God. And I kind of felt like that's what he's saying. It's not done yet. It's not over yet. Trust me. I'm still at work in your life. I immediately thanked him for his revelation. And I will tell you that in our situation, I have taken 4 verses as my daily traveling companions. And they are this: Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Don't depend on your own understanding. And I like to say, don't depend on your own misunderstanding. Seek God's will in all you do, and he will show you which path to take. I also take very closely to my life Job 13:15. Even if God kills me, I will trust him and I will serve him. Job 23:10 is the 4th verse. It says this: but he knows the way that I take, and after I have been tested, or when he tests me, I will come forth as gold. I want to go back just very quickly to Isaiah 55, verses 8 and 9. My thoughts are nothing like your thoughts. My ways are beyond anything you can imagine. For just as the heavens are higher than the earth, so my ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. Trying to understand God's ways and God's thoughts without his revelation is like trying to teach an infant, anything. We don't understand anything that God thinks unless he reveals it to us. But our calling isn't to understand God. Our calling is to trust God, to pursue God, to seek God, and to believe God that no matter what he's called you to do, no matter what he's called you to be, he's in the middle of it with you. He knows what you need before you need it. He knew the storm that the disciples were going to get into before they got in the boat. All they could see was, we're going to the other side. Jesus said in his mind, I know there's a storm. We're going to have a good time. When God leads us into that very uncomfortable situation, and that's where you may be today, it's more than just a meeting of the need and that need that he's interested in. Yes, pray over that need. Seek God for the answer to that need. Meeting that need. But also remember, he's trying to reveal something about himself in the process. Don't be so hurried to see the need met that you miss what he's trying to show you about himself. And here's where I want to leave you with today. God is with you. God has not failed you. His timing is perfect. Ours is not. I want you to be encouraged that he will never leave you nor forsake you. He will not abandon you in your difficult time. He is with you today. Numbers chapter 6, verses 24 to 26. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you, and may the Lord give you peace as you travel your way. God bless you. Have a great day.